Hello and welcome to Tracy Mommy Reads. I am back again with another video. Today, I am going to be doing a contrast and comparison of a book versus its television adaptation. And the book is by author Alice Feeney and it is called His and Hers. And it was adapted to a limited series on Netflix and has the same name, His and Hers. So, needless to say, before we go any further, a couple of things. Number one, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now so that, you don't forget. We get so deep into our conversation and you forget if you haven't already subscribed. Number two, I mentioned it in the description, but this video will be ripe with spoilers, full of spoilers, because I'm giving a contrast and comparison as to what was different from the book and, and how it measured up. Now, I will say one of my favorite books by Alice Feeney is Rock, Paper, Scissors. I loved that book. And I've read a lot of her books. And His and Hers wasn't high on my list of faves. However, I mean, she's always able to deliver a twisty tale that keeps you engaged. For this particular book, I just felt like the ending wasn't very realistic. Like when we got to who the person ended up being that was doing all this stuff, it just didn't seem plausible to me. But having said that, I was looking forward because I knew that they were going to be doing an adaptation, and I was looking forward to it because I wanted to see if it came across differently on screen, right? Where it would have been more believable. And I don't know if they succeeded or not, but let's just get into it. So first of all, let me just give you like a quick summary of what the book and the show is about. Essentially, you have, when it refers to His and Hers, it's talking about points of view, sides of the story. There's always three sides to every story: his, hers, and the truth. So you have a police detective by the name of Jack and a journalist by the name of Anna. And when the book and the show open, there has been a murder. And Jack has been called out because there's a murder to, start the investigation. And Anna gets wind of it and she's trying to revive her journalistic career. So she goes out, to try to get a scoop or whatever. And what we learn is that Jack and Anna are actually exes, or they're, and I can't remember, this is one part I could not remember from the book. I can't remember if they had already gotten divorced or if they were just separated. But they were married once upon a time. And the story itself makes you believe initially that Jack or Anna, because they had a connection to the dead woman, right? The body, and that maybe one of them killed her. Okay, so that's kind of the premise you go with, and it's like whose version of the story you're going to believe, because they both are very unreliable narrators. We also learned that Jack and Anna, the reason why they are no longer together is because they lost a child, and the grief from that it fractured their marriage. Also, there's another character. Anna's mom is in the story, and she is suffering from dementia. And so we see the part of that where she has to be a caregiver. And then there's like this past tense and this background story about Anna and her friends when she was in school, because the woman that died happened to be one of her school friends. And then there happens to be other, like, people being losing their lives through homicide, and they're also friends of Anna. So it's like, okay, how is all this connected? Could she have done it? What is Jack's role in this? Because he's currently living with his sister and his niece, and his sister was one of Anna's friends. So it's just a lot of, 6 degrees of separation and coincidences and that kind of thing. There's a big part of it where someone was bullied and something traumatic happened to them, and then you start wondering, does that have anything to do with it? This is, back when they were in school. So having said all that and kind of setting up, what the story is kind of about, let's get into some of these differences, and it'll shed more light on how everything kind of came together. So in the book, the first difference, the major difference was that in the book, the story took place in an English village outside of London called Blackdown. So these were English characters, right? And in the TV adaptation, they were in Atlanta, in a small town outside of Atlanta called Dahlonega. So that was interesting. But I will say, because of the setting itself was an integral part of the book, right? And I believe on the cover you see like the woods, or those are branches of a tree or something. But it was very heavily wooded area. That's where they found the woman's body. That's where the girls went for this party that happened on Anna's 16th birthday that, played a pivotal role in everything that was going on. The town that they were in, Dahlonega, it had a lot of those same, that same type of imagery. It was wooded, it was isolated, it was small, it was quaint. So I really didn't have a problem with them switching that up, not being in, England versus being in America. So conversely, the characters were American, they weren't English. It was an interracial couple played by, Anna was played by Tessa Thompson, and Jack was played by John Bernthal. And let me tell you, first of all, before I get to like their performances, still staying with the characters, in the book, Anna was an alcoholic. She was like, sometimes functional, sometimes not. But this woman kept a bottle in a flask or a little something to her mouth. She was always, so she really was a really good unreliable narrator in the book, because she was always drunk. No, she was totally, that whole thing was wiped from the storyline. I felt in the book it was more plausible because, she had essentially lost her child. She lost her marriage. She lost her job. It would maybe turn the average person into an alcoholic. But in the TV adaptation, she was very poised and very confident. And I think that may have taken away a little bit from her character, right? Because in the book, Anna was having these blackouts. So maybe you did do something to somebody and don't remember that you did it, because she was kind of having those moments like, was I there? Did that happen? Do I, or whatever, but not so much in the show. I feel like Tessa Thompson gave an emotional performance when it was necessary, as it related to the scenes where they, did flashbacks about losing her daughter. When she had a confrontation with Jack about it, she was able to pull those emotions forward. But outside of her, and her, her wardrobe was immaculate. These monochromatic looks she had, they were awesome. But I just don't know if I had any type of feeling about her one way or another. Yes, of course, my heart went out to her about losing her daughter, but she seemed very stoic a lot of times, which was a sharp contrast from the way that Anna was in the book. And Jack, conversely, he was also a mess because he had lost his wife. He had lost his job. He, was working in the big city and had to go become a detective in a small town. His wife had left him. So he was a mess. And from what I can remember in the book, he was described as kind of scruffy, like he wasn't that put together. Well, John Bernthal had the hair slicked back and the shirts tucked in, and he was the total opposite of that. And I will tell you, I really like John Bernthal, and his The Punishers. I love that show. Really, really love him as that character. Saw him in The Accountant 3, not 3, Accountant 2. Loved him in that character. In The Amateur, I feel like he was grossly underused, but loved him there. And I will say, having said that, he's pretty much the same guy in all the movies that I've seen him in. He has this like machismo and like tough guy and hey, what are you doing type, energy. And he was a little like that in this movie, and it was not the right place for it. I don't know that I liked him. He tried to bring some vulnerability to the character, but it felt forced. I mean, his eyes got a little glassy every now and then, but whereas Tessa Thompson like was full on like, tears and everything, like I never saw that. Like he never brought that to the surface. And there's this thing, I don't know if he's from Canada or where he's like from, like, where he was born, but not the character, but John himself, because and once I tell you guys this, if you haven't seen the movie or if you saw it, it's gonna stand out and you're not gonna be able to unsee it or unhear it. He put yeah on the end of damn near every other sentence. I remember distinctly there was a scene he was in the like at the police station or precinct or whatever they call it, and he was talking to Priya, who is one of the characters in the book. She's like his partner, right? And he was like, yeah, I need you to go and contact these witnesses. Yeah. And then we're going to go over there and then we're going to go back to the thing. Yeah. And then he kept saying yeah at the end of every sentence. And the way that he was moving was, now I will say this, because of how he was moving, it did make him seem suspicious, because even like in the book, he was trying to cover stuff up because he had been with the dead woman the night before she died. He didn't kill her, but he had been with her. So he knew that there was a lot of evidence that he left around, and he was trying to solve the case before he became a suspect. So his mannerisms in that respect, they were kind of spot on, but I wasn't really impressed by his performance. Priya, who was his, partner, I think in the book, she was more kind of infatuated with him. And in this, version of the TV show, she was suspicious of him, as she should have been, and she was like, wait a minute, you might be a suspect. Let's see. A big thing that they changed too, and I didn't realize it until the last episode, because it was so confusing, because I'm going by what the book was about, right? There was something tragic that happened in the book, and it happened during Anna's 16th birthday. So let me back. Remember how I said there was a group of friends, the woman that died, Anna, Jack's sister, and then there was also another girl who, present day, she became like the head mistress over the private girls' school where they had all attended. And then there was another girl who they kind of brought into the fold because they were, trying to bully her or make her believe they were her friends when they really weren't. So essentially it was a Mean Girls club. The four of them were Mean Girls, and they were targeting this other girl. And Anna was a big part of it. And they set this girl up to be assaulted by some guys who paid one of them for bringing her there, right? Well, in the TV adaptation, Anna was the victim. And I feel like I know why they did that. And I'm going to put a pin in that and I'll come back. But yeah, in the book, it was totally somebody else, which made a lot more sense. I feel like they tried to do it to make sense for the ending, but then it messed up like the motivation in the middle, because in the book, Anna, I can't remember if she was replacing somebody or if she lost her job, because I think somebody replaced her when she went on maternity leave, and then she lost her daughter, but she had came back, and that person went on maternity leave and they came back, but she was in danger of losing her job to this, bright new shiny person on a permanent basis. And come to find out, the person who was taking her job as an anchor on television because she was a journalist. She had ended up going to the field to do field reporting. The journalist who took her place in the book, her name was Cat Jones, I believe. And Cat was short for Catherine. And Catherine was the girl that they set up to be bullied in the book. But she has totally transformed because it's been like 20 years. Because, this was all when they were 16. And I'm thinking it's been 15 or 20 years. They're in their 30s now. But she was like overweight and had greasy hair and braces, all kind of stuff. And now she's like this blonde bombshell, so to speak, and totally unrecognizable. She's married now. Her name is Cat Jones. She's married to someone and she's cut her name in half. So there just was no connection. Like Anna didn't make that connection. So in the book, when that happened and you find out who she was, then it's kind of like, oh my God, she's the one taking out all these girls, because the first girl, her name was Rachel, that died in the, when they went to find her at the beginning of the movie in the book. Then the head mistress woman died. And then even Jack's sister Eve died. So it's like they're all being, knocked down, and it's obviously some type of revenge plot. So you're immediately assuming that it was Cat, now that you know who she is. In the TV adaptation, her name was Catherine Alexis or something. So she was going by Lexi Jones. But she is not the one, like I said, that got assaulted. It ended up, in the TV show, it ended up being Anna. But she had always blamed Anna because she almost got assaulted. And she, they were doing all these mean things to her. And Anna was the one that kind of brought her into the fold. So she always blamed her, right? But I just feel like there's like the motivation is no longer there now, because nothing, it was horrible that you were almost, essayed and that you were in that position. But this woman is one that it actually happened to. And the way that they had it in the movie was like, because she went to protect her. So I didn't get why she was so hell bent on trying to take her job and trying to get payback and all this stuff. And from that point, I was like, well, surely she can't be the one, I didn't know if they were going to change the ending. She can't be the one that's, like out here unaliving all these women. And no, they stuck with the original ending, which, okay, this was my biggest problem with the book. And I feel like even though they tried to justify it more in the movie, I still didn't get it. In the book, it turns out, first of all, when the points of view of every chapter, it would say his, and you would be getting Jack's account of the story. And then in hers, you would be getting Anna's account of the story. However, you started to realize that maybe all along it wasn't just Anna's point of view. When they were saying hers, some of those chapters were actually her mother's point of view. Okay? And we learn at the end that her mother was the one that was killing all these women. And she was doing it for retribution and revenge for Anna, because she had read like this suicide note, because Anna felt bad about what happened to Catherine back when they were teenagers or whatever. But she, she had written the note, but I guess it was in a box with all her stuff. And obviously she never acted on it, but that's the part that always got me in the book. It's like, your daughter was the mean girl. She was the bully. And she did let something very tragic happen and didn't step in and try to help, or didn't, go to the authorities or anything. So yeah, she's going to feel guilty. And she probably just wrote that letter to like assuage herself with some guilt, Like, why do you think these other girls need to die? Because of something that your daughter willfully participated in. That part I never got. I never understood that. However, there had been earlier like conversations in the book where apparently Anna's father must have been abusive or something, and how he died mysteriously. And we found out that her mother killed her father and buried him out like in the patio or something. That never was even a conversation in the TV show. So in the TV show, because Anna was the one that was assaulted, and there was like this video camera that she had bought out to the thing, and it was sitting somewhere, and they caught it on video. Her mother saw that, and then that's what led her to kill the other girls, you know, in the TV show, which that made more sense to me than why she was doing it in the book, right? And she in the TV show, she was pretending to have dementia. I can't remember if if she actually had dementia or something, and it was like she was forgetting who she was or something, and that's why, you know, how they were justifying it. But in both cases, the way that these women died, I just can't imagine. Like, these women are like at least 20 years younger than her. She wasn't in the best shape. She had to walk a lot of the places. And like the first woman, it's like she was stabbed multiple times. Like, how? I just did not buy that she would have been capable, you know, of hand to hand. It was, all of them were hand to hand, you know, slitting somebody's throat, putting them in the tub, stapling somebody's eyes. Like, it was a lot of physical stuff where it's like these women that she attacked just were like, okay, just do whatever you want to me. And they just, you know, didn't even try to fight back. I don't know. That never sat well with my spirit. But same thing happened in the TV show. And even in both the book and the TV show, the mom, her name was Alice, she gets away with it. And they do end up, I think, in both situations, pinning everything on Kat / Lexi, because it made a better narrative for the police officers and a better motive. I don't think they looked for anybody, you know, after that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was so much potential there with both the book and the TV show, and I don't think either lived up to expectations. I think that they should have just let Lexi / Kat be the villain. She should have been, I mean, it would have, you know, kind of delayed that reveal maybe. If they would have delayed the reveal of who she really was, then the readers would have gotten sucked into it, not knowing her connection to them. But I guess because they were feeding us all this backstory about the girl that they, you know, mistreated and bullied, I guess, you know, some readers would be like, what happened to that girl? Oh, this must be her. Maybe it would have been too easy to figure out. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, I feel like with the book, again, it was engrossing. It was engaging until it got to that reveal, and it didn't like really make sense. In hindsight, it made sense once I realized it wasn't Anna, who every hers chapter wasn't hers, and so that cleared up some stuff. But that ending, no. The TV show, it's 6 episodes, I believe, and they're like around 45, 48 minutes long. Every episode was actually pretty good until, again, we get to the last part and they try to put this woman as the killer, and it just didn't make sense. So unfortunately for me, I don't feel like the show gave me a better, feeling about the book. You know, I still walked away feeling the exact same way about the story in general. Enough of my rambling. Let me know if you have watched His and Hers, and if you read the book and how you think it measured up, how they measured up to each other. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video and go ahead and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.